Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life podcast. I am your host, Lori Palau, and if this is the first time that you're joining us, welcome to our community. Every week, we put out new episodes talking to experts and real people and just influencers in any given area talking about how they live an organized life. And I'm really excited to share today's guest with you. We were introduced, it was like serendipitous a couple of months ago. And our guest is, and I'm going to bring her out in a minute, but her name's Emily Hay. And she is an entrepreneur. She's a mom. And when I started kind of doing a deeper dive into her background, I saw so many parallels into kind of both of our journeys. And we connected up and instantly hit it off. And she runs a social media branding company and she'll talk about that. But one of her big principles and in kind of like her modules of life and in her business is about work-life integration. And she's going to talk all about that. And for anybody who's been around me for more than a hot second knows that I talk about that because that notion of balance is, and I use the word balance too, but it really is a slippery slope. And I think integration is such a great way to describe it because you are integrating different parts of your life. And again, I wanted to bring Emily on to talk about that, but also to inspire people because as an entrepreneur myself and as somebody who's always trying to help women find their passions, cultivate that into a profitable business or a side hustle or whatever you want to do, Emily's done that. And for anybody that knows how I have kind of started the partner program and help nurture people kind of grow their professional organizing business, Emily's done a similar model, not exactly the same, but similar for people in the social media space. And so we're going to talk all about that. So if you're an entrepreneur and you think that might be something that's of interest to you, you're going to want to definitely lean in to connect up with her about that. But without any further ado, I want to bring Emily out so she can tell you all about herself in her own words. So Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lori. That was such a beautiful introduction. And I get chills when you talk about the way that we first connected, because you're right. Our energy resonates. What you're doing is incredible. I know you are lit up by helping female entrepreneurs, as am I. We just simply use different vehicles, social media versus home organizing and more. So again, thank you for connecting with me and for the opportunity to talk today.
No, awesome. So again, I gave really kind of more of a commentary overview about yourself, but just tell our listeners who you are personally, professionally, give them a kind of that deeper dive.
Sure. In a nutshell. So again, I am an entrepreneur. I enjoy public speaking. I am a mom to two girls. I have a husband. My self-employment and entrepreneurial path began a decade ago when I did find social media marketing as my perfect on-ramp to being able to work flexibly. I was not a mom when I started. However, my team was. And that was something that lit me up from the very beginning, to be able to see how you can work flexibly and still maintain whatever caregiving responsibilities you want, whatever level of involvement you want as a mom, before, like I said, before I even was. So a few years into my business, I did become a mom. And the last few years have been just really perfecting what you mentioned in the intro about what work-life integration is. And I know we have so much to talk about with that today, but I am a very type A, linear person. And when I thought about the elusive work-life balance, an expression that we've really had in our lexicon for decades, it just kept making me feel like I was failing. And so that's where the last few years I stopped and with my team, we looked and said, we actually have a different lifestyle and it happens to be integration. And that really took the pressure off and gave me the permission to not look at I was failing as a mom or failing as a business owner, and really just looked at, no, mixing it all together is doing it right. There are more things you can do to, like I said, perfect that, but mixing it together is right because you are one person and it is all parts of your life.
I love it. And it's interesting because I know I started my business in 2009 and you started yours in 2010. And I think back to what the landscape of social media was back then. And I always tell people, especially when I'm talking to, professional organizers, and I go, just to put it in frame of reference, there was no Instagram or Pinterest when I started my business. And people are like, what? You know, and so, it's always like like a little bit of a conversation starter. But I'm curious a little bit about what drew you to social media, just give our listeners or viewers, if people are watching us on YouTube, what did it look like then? Because I'm sure over the past decade, the scope of the work that you're doing has changed and evolved.
Sure. Fabulous questions, Lori. So in I chose social media because again, in 2010, businesses had a Facebook page, but they didn't really know what that meant. And I mean, my background was in marketing, my background was in sales, and I love writing, I love communicating. YouTube was a big social network at the time. We called it like a piece of social media. And so I really just thought there are all these small businesses out there. So I started out with small businesses for a couple of reasons. One, I had a friend who owned a local bakery, and she said, here's what I'm spending to advertise on Yellow Pages. What can you do if I pay you to do something for us on Facebook? Again, there wasn't Facebook advertising, there wasn't Instagram, but just making sure that people could find the business at that time, people could check in, that people could learn about the owners of this bakery. And obviously social media has evolved, but what I really latched on to in the beginning with social was being able to define what social media marketing meant for a small business owner. So that was having updated Yelp reviews, that was using a YouTube channel, having a Facebook page that was active and relevant and available for people that were, early adopters and users of Facebook. And so from then, the next phase was really bringing that scope of work to other businesses that could benefit from it. And from there, perfecting who we reach. And I say who we reach because we have been an all-female team from the get-go. And really, we just pride ourselves in working with businesses that want to reach female decision makers on social media. So to your point, Lori, the definition of social media marketing is very broad, but we found the most success in framing it up around creating content, posting for businesses, managing online reviews. As social media evolved, adding Facebook advertising, adding other networks like Instagram, maybe doing a little bit more on Twitter or a little less on MySpace. It just evolved. And the last thing I'll say about the scopes of work for our clients has been, in the very beginning of social media, everything was handed off. And then as years have gone by, businesses have figured out what they're good at internally and where they could use some help externally. So that's where you might see small to medium-sized businesses having our team help with just blog writing or just Facebook ads. There are still plenty that have us do the whole gamut, but that's been neat to watch too, to see the different ways we can help businesses, and we can be flexible to do that.
Yeah, and for anybody that's out there that, you know, is a small business owner, I can speak from my own personal experience, like that running the social media marketing part of your business is a job in and of itself. And I mean, Emily and I know and have spoken, and a lot of our partners struggle with, trying to figure out how can I reach my people and continue to market my business strategically and still service my clients. And sometimes that's when delegating, and we talk about delegation in your personal lives. And I think it's just equally as important as small business owners to remember those same principles of when does it make sense to delegate or outsource parts of your business that either you don't do well or you don't have time for, or that wind up becoming neglected and that need that attention. And so I can speak from personal experience, like your business and what you do and the service that you provide for your clients is a necessary part of running a small business. So for anybody that's out there that, again, is thinking about doing their own entrepreneurial journey. You just have to factor that into what we call, your time blocking. How much time are you spending on doing these things? And you might really enjoy it, and that's great. But for a lot of people that don't, that's okay. It's funny. I tell people all the time. I go, most professional organizers got into the business because they like organizing. They like a specific aspect of it. That doesn't mean that you have to enjoy the social media part of it. And that doesn't make you a poor organizer, but then just know that if you want to market your business and be a good business, a well-rounded, not good, but a well-rounded business person, and this goes for any industry. I'm just speaking to professional organizers, but I think for any industry, it's knowing what are the things that I do well, what are the things that come easy, and knowing how to delegate or outsource. And again, that's just an organizing principle I think that people need to recognize.
Thank you, Laura. I mean, you totally get it on so many levels. One of the things I appreciate about speaking with you and your audience is that clearly we are in a group of people that values expertise, right? Like there's that you can do it yourself and it's mediocre, or maybe even if it's good, is it the best use of your time? And so at some point, can I buy all the organizing tools and kits and try to do it myself? Sure. But is that the best use of my time? And am I going to get the best result? And obviously I would say no to that. So again, I appreciate that. Yes, we are in a space where not every person feels ready or that they can benefit from outsourcing, but when you do acknowledge the value it can bring, it's a wonderful thing.
And I do also, I mean, we have our core demographic are women. We do have men listeners. My producer is a man, and we love Don. I love supporting, as you said at the top of the hour, I love supporting women, especially women entrepreneurs. And not that I don't support women entrepreneurs that don't have kids, but especially because I've walked that walk, or I walk that walk. Now my kids are big, but I started my business when my kids were little, and I know what that juggling act looks like. And even today, I'm like, okay, my daughter has prom tonight. And I'm like, as soon as I get off, like I have back-to-back calls, and then I have to go run out and do this, and we have pictures today. Like there's always something, even if regardless of what stage you're at. So I love the fact that you are also embracing, and that goes back to that work-life integration. You're embracing that with your team. So it makes for a working environment that's being factored in. That's being factored into how do you incorporate your business. It doesn't have to be an either or. It could be a both and.
Absolutely. You literally walk the walk. You've learned it as you've gone along. And I guess I thought that compartmentalizing would be the way to be effective and fulfilled. And it was those two things that absolutely weren't happening. I was feeling, stretched so thin when I thought, okay, I'm Emily the mom now, and I'm loving this moment, and then something goes sideways, and then I'm Emily the business person. And again, we've got a lot of unlearning to do as a society, right? I mean, work-life balance is this elusive concept, and it's really exciting that it's brought up now. And even this past pandemic year of just reframing the way that we look at our lives, and that we don't live in compartments. And it doesn't make you a less effective entrepreneur or a less worthy entrepreneur if you have more than one responsibility, being more than just your job, more than just your focus or your career. Being a caregiver doesn't make you less dedicated. So that's where I get, very excited to think that we are at this pivotal point of making it more normal, and not only embracing it, but really feeling empowered from it, not something that you have to downplay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you bring up the pandemic, and I'm curious to know how, in your own experience, because how old are your girls? I know they're young. They're
They're
little.
5 and 7.
Okay. So you're like in the weeds. Fun ages, but it's a lot, how did that impact? Because I'm sure your business probably was busy. Like I would think, I could be wrong, that your business was booming because people need to continue messaging. You need to continue messaging for your own, for your own business as well as for your clients. And yet here you are, you've got, littles at home, not babies, but, little elementary school kids, and you're trying to navigate distance learning and motherhood and everybody under the same roof and your husband at home, and it's a lot. So walk
Talk
us
about
through
hot
your,
mess.
yeah, well, join the club, but it's, yeah. So walk us through your pandemic experience.
Sure. And I'll keep it brief because obviously there isn't a woman out there that's listening that didn't have a struggle. And a little bit of PTSD starts to well up. I mean, we are still kind of in it, right? But like,
Yes.
oh, I don't want to remember too much of the dark days. However, love your question. When, again, we were a work from home team since 2010. And so when the pandemic hit, we really felt like we've got this. And then it was very quick, like a couple weeks in, that my entire team was like, we don't have this. This is a whole nother ballgame. Work-life integration isn't broken if it's not, like, just because we aren't killing it as moms and employees and working, then that doesn't mean that work-life integration doesn't work. It means work-life integration's matrix was completely upset with this pandemic, right? So I guess we just took that little bit of grace, as people say, and realized that no, we don't have this. And I just got more fired up during the year. I mean, it was chaos as a mom to maintain some sort of normalcy and all the stressors that all of us moms dealt with regards to school. But I felt fired up about, this is when our people need us, and our people being women who may want to re-enter a workforce, who may want to reassess what they want to do, who may want to reassess what they want to do for who. And even if it wasn't immediate, it was, where will I be in the fall of 22 or 21? So I guess I got really focused last year on just thinking now is really this time to dig our heels down into being there to help women find one particular way to work flexibly for themselves. So that's what got me through the pandemic year professionally.
That's awesome. And for me, it was a lot of booze, a lot of booze and a locked door. So no.
Yes, well, that's what I mean. The PTSD, like, trust me, it wasn't smooth sailing. I don't think it was for anybody, but yeah, a lot of locked conference call closets.
Yes.
Yeah, just a lot of stress.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we come back. I want to dig a little bit deeper into kind of how you've pivoted your business and talk a little bit about your work-life integration nation and, how you're now helping to train, coach, mentor other people. So sit tight and we will be right back. Okay, Emily. So obviously you've kind of painted this really great picture of how you started your business, how you have your team of people, but there's also this other dynamic to your branding business. And I was hoping that you could speak to it because it's something that really struck me early on because it reminds me so much of my partner program.
So Lori, I'm so thankful to speak with you because you are someone that I fully consider a work-life integrator. And I just really started to look at work-life integration as a lifestyle. It's a way to be fulfilled and not overwhelmed. And when I looked at what it meant to be a work-life integrator, that's where I really started to see it is not limited to women who are self-employed. It's not limited to women who work in any one industry. It's also not even limited to women who work in the traditional sense of earning income. And what I mean by that is, I look at work as simply stimulating your professional brain. And if that means you are doing very meaningful work in a volunteer capacity, or you are preparing yourself for a next chapter of your professional career, then that is very much work. So I want to make sure that we women don't fall in the trap of, well, I don't work and make money, therefore I guess I'm not a work-life integrator. I really challenge women to have a more inclusive definition of what work means. And even if you frame it up of stimulating your unique talents, like I said, your professional self, there's the life component of yourself, right? Your caregiving responsibilities, your own interests, and that of course needs to be brought into the whole integration concept. But I just really started to get very excited about a whole work-life integration nation because it meant it's inclusive. It's for women that just understand the lifestyle of having a lot to do, but not necessarily needing to say yes to all of it.
So let me ask you a question because I am like, preach it, sister, right there with you. But for people that are listening right there that are saying, okay, this sounds great, but I don't know where to begin, or I don't have the tactical, practical specifics of how to make that happen, how to connect those dots. I know the things that I do and that I talk about, but I always love to, challenge or invite our guests to kind of share what are some simple tools that you could give to somebody out there if they're not feeling that their lives are integrated. How can they begin to do that?
Okay. Well, one of the first things I would recommend is just looking at where you are today, right? Like, what are you spending your time doing that you might already be, again, that professional fulfillment? I don't care if you're planning your family's next vacation. Like, if there is something about doing that work that stimulates you, that uses your unique talents, maybe you are amazing at organizing and organizing, a trip, planning the logistics. Like I said, volunteering in schools or nonprofits. I just would start by saying, like, you probably are doing some things right now that could very much be seen as work. And then work being professional stimulation. And then if you are a caregiver, if you are a mom, you don't have to be a mom to be a work-life integrator, but you probably have that aspect covered. So just look at where you're at right now, because again, this is an invitation to simply reframe up how you're looking at your current situation. To your point, Lori, if you're saying, well, how do you take the next step of what that means? How can you go further with that? I honestly am so excited to see all the different retraining programs, webinars, free workshops. There's so many sources out there that are helping women just think about what, like I said, reassess what they want to do and who they want to do it for. Our sweet spot is helping the women that say, well, I've never even thought about how social media marketing could be my flexible work vehicle. So that's our swim lane, social media marketing. But like I said, for any woman out there, just thinking about other ways and other passions and interests that you have. There's so many better resources out there than I am for that. I'm definitely your gal if you wonder about social media marketing.
Well, I want you to just talk about that a little bit because, and I always kind of think back to my own journey into how I stumbled into this
Yeah.
profession, and even when I talk to other professional organizers about how they started, and at least in my particular vertical, most people just stumbled into it pretty organically. It was something that they enjoyed, something that they were naturally, intuitively organized. It wasn't something that you necessarily like went to school for to become a professional organizer. And I'm curious again, a lot of times, like social media marketing didn't even exist when I went to school. Like there was no degrees in that because it didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. So how do people even kind of figure out that this is something that they would be good at or that they would want to do? And then if this is somebody that's out there going, you know what, maybe my kids are going to start school, or maybe I feel like I need something because I need some extra stimulation and I love being a mom, but I feel like I need something. Or maybe they just are like, we need more money, but I need to be able to figure out something that's going to be flexible enough. And they want to maybe consider doing this. Talk a little bit about how you pivoted your business. I'm doing what Don doesn't like, which is a two-part question, but here we go. How you pivoted your business, like what made that approach happen so that you now are helping other people start their own businesses, and then B, like what would be the indicators for somebody that this might be a path that they'd be wanting to explore?
Thanks, Lori. So with regards to how we pivoted, so it was fall of 2019 that one of my team members had just gotten back from maternity leave. And that's when as we all help each other out, that's when I said, okay, whoa, we can keep going at this with bringing clients on and fulfilling the work. But that's when I said, we have a better way to reach more businesses and to empower other moms. And that's when we decided the fall of 2019 to teach women how to do what we do, plain and simple. I did not look at it as training our competitors because two things. One, there's enough business for everybody. There's enough small to medium-sized business owners that can leverage a social media manager, a social media expert. And two, it has just proven itself to an entire team of women that it is a way to feel empowered and fulfilled and keep your skills sharp. And even if you don't decide to turn this into something, more like corporate, work for yourself, one client, 12 clients, whatever works for you. So that was the pivotal moment of, we need to really make this the time that now we're going to expand by training women how to do what we do. And then we launched our beta program in 2020, January 2020, and then we do quarterly cohorts. We made it through 3 in the pandemic year. We did make it through 3. And so, like I said, we do quarterly cohorts now where we train women how to do this. The next question was so great about, how do you know if this is something that could work for you? There are two key factors, I would say. If you even want to think about doing social media management as a flexible career, like businesses hire you to do for their social media, their social networks, what you already might do for yourself, there's 2 things. One, you have to at least be interested in social media. So it is okay if you don't know how to do Pinterest ads. It is okay if you have never cleaned up a YouTube channel. But if you spend a lot of time on Facebook or Instagram, or you've made reels, or you've watched reels, if you have put yourself into social media, then I guarantee you know things about social media that businesses will pay for your knowledge. And so our training builds upon that. Make sure that it's not just limited knowledge on one network. So social media expertise, exposure, maybe social media exposure. You don't have to be a complete expert, but you have to like it. And then the other thing would be writing. You have to be a good writer, and you do not have to be an author. You do not have to be willing to write 600-word blog posts every day, but you have to come across clear in a written form. And again, I'm okay at writing, like I can do it, but it takes a lot of effort for me. So that's what I say about, you don't have to be a long form author, but you have to enjoy writing, because again, a business is going to be paying you to write content for their social networks.
Yeah, and I mean, being a good communicator is really, to me, what it's, you want to be conveying people's messages clearly. But
More succinct than I put it, Lori. Thank you.
oh no, I don't know about that. But the other thing is, which I'm sure you teach in your course or your cohort, is what it takes to run a business. Because I speak to this all the time to people that either are asking me questions about, should I become a professional organizer? What does that do? And again, this can go true for any industry. Liking to do that task does not, that's only one piece of the puzzle of running a business. So if you like posting, but you don't like running a business and going after new business development and doing invoicing and all of these other things that fall under the umbrella of running a business, that is, I would think that that's important. But the other thing is, there's probably people that are out there that go, I really like this. I really want to do this, but I don't know how to set up rates. I don't know how to bill myself. I don't know how to approach myself. I can put stuff out there, but I don't know how to run a business. And having people like your framework sorry, my doorbell just rang. I don't know who that is.
All good.
So to have somebody that can teach you the tactical things of how to run a business is really great. And that's what I love what you do, because it's kind of similar to what we do with our partners and helping them kind of really grow and scale so they can focus in on the stuff that they really enjoy and enhance their work-life integration.
Yes. And again, you brought up so many points as a veteran entrepreneur, Lori, that there will always be pieces of running your business that might not completely light you up. And although, there's so much talk on finding that exact thing that does light you up, certainly don't let that deter you, from thinking like, oh, well, I will have to find clients. I will have to invoice. I mean, those are natural steps that come with growing a business. And at some point, if you figure out now is a good time to outsource certain pieces of it, But I mean, even with social media marketing, obviously that's where I speak from, that there are other ways that we teach that you can also spend more time doing the social media work, versus running different aspects of the business. It's, again, don't mean to be cryptic on it. It's just, the one thing with social media marketing that we have found is that there are a number of ways to have revenue streams coming in, whether you have clients directly or whether you are working for, another, freelance outsourced company. There's a number of ways to go about it. But I just, as women, maybe just as women together here talking, I think, don't let any of that deter you from thinking you could definitely run your own flexible business.
And I that brings up such a good point because and this is the thing that I tell people all the time. Like, it doesn't you don't have to model what you're doing or what I'm doing. And there's this, danger, for lack of a better word, that we fall into is that we, first of all, we look at what we see, which isn't always 100% accurate and authentic and all the time. And we also have our own perception. So even what we see, if I'm being authentic, people think that I'm doing all these things and really I'm delegating a lot and I have support here and I've helped there. And we don't know, but we all tell these narratives. And I think what I want to encourage women, regardless of whether they're interested in organizing or social media or whatever it is if you feel like you can bring value in some area, you have a gift, you have a talent, whatever it is, you can do that. And if you want to monetize that, you can do that. There are so many ways that you can do it. And if the pandemic has taught us anything, is really about the versatility, resilience, and flexibility to be able to do things from a virtual, perspective where you don't have to be in person. And whether you're investing 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, or 50 hours a week, it doesn't have to. There's such a spectrum of women entrepreneurship. And I know that you and I share that same sentiment of just wanting to nurture and support people so it doesn't have to be an either or. I'm sacrificing my kids or my career.
Absolutely. And that so much of the integration component, right? That part of being an integrator is accepting the ebbs and flows of more availability or less availability. It depends on your family's needs at the time, what are have the mental bandwidth to do. So yes, everything you mentioned.
Awesome. Awesome. So before we take our last break, I want you to let our listeners know where they can find you. If there's anybody that's listening that is interested in possibly exploring a career in social media marketing, um, or maybe you're working a full-time job and you want to learn how to pivot and do your own thing, tell them where they can find you, connect up.
Thank you, Lori. So my Instagram handle is just Emily A. Hay. If you find me there, then you will find the handle to Hey There Social Media. And from there, you'll be able to click to our website and read all about our training program and about Work-Life Integration Nation.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take one more quick break and we're going to come back and we are going to do our wrap-up questions. So sit tight. All right, Emily, this has been so great. And I know I've been inspired and motivated by you. And I hope that I'm sure there are women that are out there that going, yes, this is great. This is doable. And really setting this realistic expectation, because I think we oftentimes think that we have to be like all the way out there when really it's just starting with some baby steps and we can grow and scale as our life ebbs and flows, like you said.
So right. You're so right.
So I always ask our guests a couple of questions since we are always inspired by you and what you had to say. Can you share with us a book, a resource that has inspired you that you can pass along? It could be something personal, it could be business, just whatever is your go-to.
Sure. So I love podcasts. I don't have What Mom Has a ton of time to read, but I actually have the book right here. I'm a big fan of Fair Play by Eve
Ooh.
Rodney. Yeah.
Oh, I like it.
Especially when you think about, the life component of work-life integration. I feel like I have my work act together, but the life side of things is just a little more complicated. So that's a book I would highly recommend.
I love that. I'm going to have to go check it out.